Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton, a member of the Armed Services Committee and a fierce critic of President Obama's nuclear deal. Senator, we've known since the formal announcement of the Iran deal last January and the release of the 4 American hostages that the U.S. would pay Iran $1.7 million as part of settlement of an old arms deal. So why are you so upset by the revelation this week about this $400 million cash payment to Iran?
Chris, it's good to be on with you this morning. At the time, I said that that $1.7 billion payment was a ransom itself. But the administration has consistently stonewalled Congress and the American people. We didn't know the cash payment, for instance. We didn't know that it was paid for with bills that can be easily laundered and used for terrorism or support for Iran's allies throughout the region. And we didn't know that the Department of Justice opposed it. I think it's really shocking to most Americans that the United States government was acting like a drug cartel or a third world gun runner might, stacking cash on a pallet and wrapping it in cellophane and flying it in an unmarked aircraft to give to the world's worst state sponsor of terrorism. There's still a lot of questions left to be answered, and the Obama administration continues to stonewall on those.
Let me quickly point out, if people are wondering, that you're on the Cotton family farm in Arkansas, and I must say it looks like a very nice place to be on this Sunday. President Obama didn't keep it a secret. I mean, he announced last January that we were giving this money to Iran. Let's look back at what he said.
The United States and Iran are now settling a long-standing Iranian government claim against the United States government. Iran will be returned its own funds, including appropriate interest, but much less than the amount Iran sought.
Now, I understand the point you made in your first answer. We're talking about $400 million in cash. We're talking about an unmarked plane. We're talking about the hostages waiting on the tarmac till the plane landed. But you certainly would agree that the administration did not keep this payment, maybe the nature of it, but they didn't keep the payment secret.
Well, they did keep the nature of it, and when you give $400 million in straight cash in 500 euro notes, a note that is notoriously used for terrorism and drug running around the world, so much so that the European Union is taking it out of circulation, I think that's an important fact for the American people to know. Again, though, I said at the time in January that paying them $1.7 billion, not money that they deserve, not money that they had a right to, on the very weekend that 4 Americans were released from captivity and the nuclear deal was implemented, was a ransom payment. And that would lead to the detention of more hostages in Iran, which is exactly what has happened in the meantime.
Now, you've talked about it like a drug cartel, money laundering. Former Bush Attorney General Michael Mukasey, who was also a former federal judge, had an article this week in the Wall Street Journal under the headline, "Legal but not right." Do you agree that, whether you like it or not, the payment was legal? And what do you plan to do about it to try to stop this kind of thing? Obviously, you can't undo it, but to try to stop it in the future.
Well, Chris, lawyers disagree about the legality of it, but in the end, this is not a question of whether it was legal. It was whether it was smart, and it's the right thing to do to keep Americans safe. Again, President Obama said we don't pay ransom this week. He said this payment was not a ransom. It doesn't really matter, though, what President Obama says. It matters what the Iranians think, and it matters what dictators and terrorists and gangsters all around the world think. And they clearly think that this was a ransom payment, and that if they take an American hostage, then maybe they too will get a $400 million windfall in 500 euro notes on an unmarked plane. That's why it's so dangerous.
Now,
we have to stand up to Iran, Chris. I've introduced legislation with Bob Corker and Bob Menendez and Joe Manchin called the Countering Iranian Threats Act that we need to enact almost as soon as we get back into session next month to stop Iran's illicit activity and its support for terrorism.
Well, I want to get into the larger question of Iran, because one of the concerns is that Iran used this money and the many more billions that it got as part of the nuclear deal to support terrorism. But CIA Director John Brennan said that that's not true. Let's listen to Director Brennan.
The money, the revenue that's flowing into Iran is being used to support its currency, to provide, monies to the departments and agencies, build up its infrastructure.
Is Director Brennan misleading the American people, Senator?
Well, when you give Iran more than $100 billion, there's no doubt that some of that money might go into domestic purposes, because a lot of the support for terrorist groups like Hezbollah and Hamas may not require that much money. But there's also no doubt, and even senior White House officials have said, that some of this money very likely ended up in the hands of terrorist organizations or the Revolutionary Guard Corps. And as President Obama's own Director of National Intelligence and Commanding General in the Middle East has said, Iran's behavior in the Middle East has gotten worse and more aggressive since the nuclear deal. It hasn't gotten any better.
You opposed the Iran nuclear deal, as we've said, from the very start. At the time that the deal was announced, the general assessment was that Iran was weeks, at the most months, away from breakout, the point at which it would be able to assemble enough fissile material to make a nuclear bomb. Now, most outside experts say they're at least a year away. So the breakout period has been brought back. Isn't that a good thing?
No, Chris, the nuclear deal is still a failure. Remember, the fundamental objection to the deal was not that Iran would break the deal, but Iran would uphold the terms of the deal, and they'd still be on the path to a nuclear weapon because we allowed them to keep a vast nuclear infrastructure in just a matter of years. It only took North Korea 12 years from the time that we signed a similar deal with them in 1994 to detonate a nuclear weapon. But many other outside experts have said that Iran could easily walk away from the deal and turn the breakout time back to a few months, and that's because Iran is violating the terms of the deal. Germany's intelligence service said they've expanded their clandestine procurement network throughout Europe of trying to obtain dual-use information. They continue to test ballistic missiles in violation of associated UN Security Council resolutions. So Iran is not upholding its end of the deal, but even if they were, the deal would still be fundamentally flawed because it allows Iran to keep a vast nuclear infrastructure.
Now, Donald Trump is trying to link Hillary Clinton to this payment of the $400 million, given the fact that she stepped down as Secretary of State 3 years before any of this happened. Is that fair?
Well, Hillary Clinton was the architect of Barack Obama's foreign policy in his first term, and much of the groundwork for the negotiations that ultimately culminated in this deal did in fact begin under Hillary Clinton.
But you've got to agree she had nothing to do with the actual payment.
Well, the decision to make this payment, like all decisions in the end about foreign policy, rests at the feet of Barack Obama. He's the president of the United States. It's his job to keep our country safe, and I think paying ransom for hostages clearly is not going to keep Americans safe if you see what's happened in Iran since we paid that ransom.
Finally, you've been pretty quiet about Donald Trump, beyond the fact of saying that you support him, given his fight with the Khan family, given his comments about Russia, given the fact that he has at least raised the possibility we wouldn't come to the aid of some of our NATO allies if they were to come under attack. How do you feel about Donald Trump's readiness to be commander-in-chief?
Well, Chris, I've had my disagreements with Donald Trump. I've stated them clearly in the past, and I will in the future. And Donald Trump ought not have said some of those things that you just recounted. But Hillary Clinton ought not have done the things she's done. She is in no small measure responsible for the deaths of 4 Americans in Benghazi, and she lied to the faces of their families. She set up an unsecure server in which she used classified information that put Americans at risk, and then she lied about it for a year. And then just last week, Chris, on your show, she's lying about lying. All week long since you interviewed her, she's been telling lies about her lies. Donald Trump ought not have said some things, but Hillary Clinton ought not have done so many things that she's done.
But in 30 seconds, if I may, are you confident that Donald Trump is ready to be commander-in-chief?
I am confident that if the American people elect Donald Trump as president and a Republican Congress, that this country will be safer in the world, our streets will be safer, and we will be more prosperous.
Senator Cotton, thank you. Thanks for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day on the Cotton family farm in Arkansas.
Thanks, Chris.
Up next.